Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wound Pickups.
Hey, this is me, Todd Novak. Welcome to our fantastic show, the Guitar Knobs podcast. Today in the studio, we're joined by our pal,
Rob Chafe from Mad Cow Amplification.
That's right. This is a three-peat for you now.
Is it 3?
It's 3.
Hey,
Wow.
do I get a t-shirt or a mug?
And you get a key to the washroom.
We
okay.
gave you a t-shirt. Did we?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Do I get a mug then? Or
I don't have a mug. You can have this mug.
I got a t-shirt and a keychain. Never mind, I'm good.
Yeah. But thanks for asking. Now, Rob is joining us, especially. He's been chomping at the bit to get on this one because we have on the line today a very special guest. Special guest, who are you?
Hey, Dr. Z here.
Oh, boy. All right. This is a biggie. In our timeline, I consider this a biggie.
Yeah.
And so Rob was like, hey, I need to be on that.
No, I think I told you like a year ago, if you ever get Dr. Z on, there's a few people I got to be here.
Yeah. So
You guys are too kind. Thank you.
Oh, you were welcome. We're going to get into all the Z-ness and everything. Tony Baloney, what do we do on this show here?
On this show?
Yes.
Well, we talked to Dr. Z on this show.
On this show.
Oh, you mean in the podcast
general.
in general?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, we like to talk to the movers and shakers in the boutique instrument and amplifier and pedal worlds.
That is correct, Amundo. That's very well said. Have you been practicing that?
Movers and shakers.
No, the rest of the part, movers and shakers, was garbage, but the rest of it was great. So let's see here, ladies and gentlemen. We just have to talk. We got a couple announcements real quick. This show is dedicated to our esteemed executive producer at an unnamed high level. We're still working on a name. If you guys got suggestions for names, shoot them to us. This is at our premium level that we do.
Maybe
we do a
call
show
it-
dedication. I say it was Grand Poobah, but
Nah, Supremes. The Supreme executive producer, and we could put sour cream on them. Just like Taco Bell.
yeah, we already had lunch. I'm fine.
Grand Poobah's pretty good.
I kind of like Grand
that.
Poobah executive producer. We'll sit with that for a little
Only
while.
if they're allowed to have a fez.
So he's considered a Grand Poobah executive producer. Johnathan Jerusik. He's been a friend of the show and a supporter for a long time, and this show is dedicated to him for that support. He's a great dude who really enjoys gear. He's very active out on the channels and everything.
I'm going to find him a
He does
fez.
a little YouTube stuff. So go check his stuff out.
Yeah.
I have one a little announcement I want to make.
I'm not done with this one.
Nope.
But thanks. So anyways, Johnathan Jerusik, thank you so much for your support of the show. And the show's for you, buddy. Okay, Jared.
I forgot it. No, I wanted to say a very happy birthday to Tony Abalone.
Ah, yes. Happy
happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday today. Tony.
Thank you.
26, 27?
Yeah, I wish.
2 times.
Yeah.
All right.
Double it, add a couple.
Yeah, smack it, flip it, double it down. All right, we need to say a ginormous thank you to Rodecaster Pro, the makers of the Rodecaster Pro Rode microphones.
Rode.
Yes. All right, you guys did that one too. You're working behind the scenes on me here.
We are. We practice.
And also the Procaster mic, which has just been our dearest and most singularly microphony friend
Makes it
that we
sound
have.
so good.
They work really
Words.
nice.
Yeah.
I like the articulating arms.
You do, and we've got 4 of them right here. Also, okay, so this was pretty cool. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about the 4 on the floor. And if you don't know what 4 on the floor is, if this is your first time or you're not a frequent listener, 4 on the floor, which
What?
we will do this episode. We do every episode.
You mean there are not frequent? There are people who are not.
There are
frequent
some
listeners?
non-frequent users, and that's okay, you know. But we're gonna convert them.
Okay.
So 4 on the floor, for all the time that we've been doing it, we haven't really cataloged the pedals other than what's on our website. And if you haven't seen what's on our website, go to the website and check out the 4 on the floor. There's upwards of 350 individual pedals.
What?
350 individual pedals with multiples
Holy
of some of
crap.
those. And we were talking and we said, it'd be really cool to catalog those and kind of like maybe do something with that.
Yeah.
And I said, but like I don't have the time to do that. I am maxed out on time. I can't. somebody out there was awesome enough to do this. His name is Rayo Carnahan. He cataloged all of our 4 on the floors for us. I mean, that was in a spreadsheet.
That's crazy.
Just out of the goodwill of his heart.
Wow.
And probably boredom with whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
But
That's nuts.
so appreciated.
It was either that or clip his toenails.
Right.
Ew.
But that was a massive gesture of kindness, and I really appreciate it
That's
because
awesome.
now we've got a working log, and we're going to do something with it. I don't know what that something is, but we're going to do something with it.
Post it?
Yeah,
Does it
or
involve-
Yeah, there's my dude.
maybe we'll give it to Dr. Z, and he can do with it when he's like, just sitting around, nothing to do.
Does it involve a fez?
It doesn't. Okay. No, okay.
Don't make me do it without my fez on.
Yeah. So I said, hey, can you, at bare minimum here, can you, we helped him out with a couple other things,
Yeah.
but we got his 4 on the floor.
Nice.
I figured that was
Absolutely, for doing that.
So the first one,
Well, wait a minute. Do we have to add this to the list?
I think he has to.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
Number 1, the Love Pedal Fuzzmaster 1000. He says, this one is on the tamer end of fuzz pedals, but it is quite versatile. It can go from really good distortion just to on the edge of spitting fuzz. The pedal has a bias and blend knobs to hone in the sound that you're going after. The bias adjusts the bias adjusts the bias of the fuzz. Transistor and blend knob brings in a treble circuit as I hear it. Number 2, the Keeley D&M drive. This one was the collaboration from Dan and Mick from the Pedal Show. An awesome overdrive boost pedal and my favorite on the board. I don't know what Mr. Keeley did to each of the circuits in this pedal, but it has so much headroom on tap. And the boost has all kinds of creamy tone goodness. The overdrive goes through several levels of usable gain stages as you adjust the gain. And you can switch the order of the boost and overdrive. It's like he's heard this show. And it's like he's heard this and he's doing it just like it.
I'm guessing he probably has heard the show
Yeah,
since he
I'm good.
compiled the list.
Yeah.
From the show. Yeah.
Then we have the Strymon Volante. What a great name, Volante. I love the vintage tape delay sound that the Volante does so well. This pedal is truly an inspiration machine to me. The Volante gives you the ability to really sculpt your delay, to taste with the ability to choose the tape head and playback head combination and make the tape sound clean and pristine or degraded. I really haven't even scratched the surface on what this pedal can do. Number 4.
Number 4.
Wow, I was going to say Flyman Strint. But I stopped myself from saying Flyman Strint.
That would be a great.
That'd be a great pedal. All right, some crazy person out there, make that. Maybe Low Sounds would make something like that. Make me a Flyman Strint. So the Strymon Flint, that's actually one of the most popular ones in that sheet that's been on some of the most times. A reverb and tremolo pedal with super easy control layout, and it just sounds so beautiful. It does. The 61 harmonic tremolo on this thing sounds amazing, and the available reverbs are just perfect for my musical tastes. It's a rock solid pedal that does what it does perfectly and is always on my setup. Rayo Carnahan, I thank you so much for that kind gesture and for taking the time to do that. That was he didn't just list out the names. He's like, what category are they? How many times have they been brought up? The whole
that is
nine
extremely
It's
cool.
awesome.
yeah. So there's that. Boy, oh boy, we got a lot of cool support. Gentlemen, Dr. Z and Tony and Jared.
How about Rob?
Well, he's a gentleman.
Oh,
We're going to start with Tony Baloney to
Yeah.
tell us what happened in our world this week, and then we're going to hit Dr. Z.
okay.
All right?
So in my music world this week, last Sunday we had the Columbus Guitar Show. And surprising, I never could understand this, but in Columbus, for some reason, the winter show, which is held in January, always is a better show than the summer show.
People are traveling in the summer.
Yep.
Well, that could be,
vacations and
but usually the weather is total garbage.
That's why they go.
Not this year.
nothing else to do.
Nothing
Yeah.
else to do, I guess. So I had a pretty good day at the show, and there was a gentleman that had this very cool. I'm just a sucker for Japanese hollow body guitars from the 60s.
Okay.
And I saw the one, and it's an old Kent Americana is the actual model, and it's kind of like a somewhat offset hollow body. And what really attracted me were these pickups that are in the thing are very cool. They've got it's like a half of a screen or a half of a gold foil, but it's got like little slots in it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And the guitar was all just, I mean, it was, the finish was checked and it looked like it had been ridden hard and put away wet. But anyhow, I got it for a very good price, I think. And the only thing wrong with it is the bridge pickup is a little bit DOA, but not a lot.
That means it's going to be very soon.
That means it is.
Yeah, it's going to be.
So my good pal Jared, I brought those into the studio today.
That's me.
He's going to fix them up for me and make them so that they work like they're supposed to.
That's awesome. Right. Yep.
So that was my week.
Brilliant.
Work this week.
Yep.
Dr. Z, how about you? What's going on in your music world this week?
Well, we are releasing a couple of new products. The one big one is the Z-Rec Junior. That will be available for purchase February 3rd. And we are scurrying to build as many as we can for the pre-orders that we received from our customer base. And hopefully we'll be able to get 3 or 4 or 5 units to each one of our dealers that ordered them prior to the release. They'll be available. The Z-Rec Junior, a great little amp. We have been building the Z-Rec, if any of you are familiar with that. And actually, it was named by Ken Fisher from Trainwreck Circuits. Uh-huh. Ken, myself, and Brad Paisley kind of collaborated on the original Z-Rec amp. So it was kind of a synergy between the three of us, and Ken was the one who named it. I thought it was a clever name, so we used it. But one of the things that I kept hearing from customers was, first, it was kind of too loud. Okay, it had no master volume. It certainly was in the vein of the Trainwreck design, so it was very dynamic, very touch sensitive, but also kind of loud for most players. And secondly, it was kind of expensive. So those two things were the two comments that I received. So I said, you know what, I'm going to fix that. And what I'm going to do is I'll make a half power version of the Z-Rec. I'll install a post-phase inverter master volume in it. So you can really kind of control the volume, overall volume, as much as you want with a great, post-phase inverter master volume. It works as well as an attenuator. And then, the cost will be just about half of what the normal Z-Rec was. So that's going to be the product. I do have some videos done. They will be released to the public on YouTube prior to the product release, probably be the later part of January. And looking forward to it. I think it's a great product. I believe that, Rob, you played it, I think, when you were here.
Did I?
I believe. I think so, maybe.
I played so many. I don't know. They all ran together after a while.
Okay.
I know I played the big guy, and I played,
Jetta.
of course, the Jetta, and then I played
Yes.
the one with all the knobs on it. It was a little 112 combo. I don't remember if I played that.
Yeah.
I don't think I did, actually.
Is the record out? Maybe you didn't. I'm not sure. I get a little confused myself.
I know it's so many things.
With as many pieces as there are and things to play. And a nice segue into the Jetta. The Jetta we released in October, and I am releasing it now as a head version. So initially it was just a combo. That was the October release as a 112 combo.
Yep.
And, got a lot of requests for people that wanted heads. They kind of like the ability to carry, a little bit lighter weight, connect it with different speaker cabinets, makes it a little bit more versatile and portable. So I decided, okay, well, we'll make it as a head. So we're releasing that as a head. The Jetta has a 112 combo, has a Celestion H30 in it. It has a triad output transformer, a very vintage triad output tranny. It has 7591 output tubes, which are extremely unique. And they were kind of unique to a couple of older tube manufacturers, tube amp manufacturers, excuse me. That was Ampeg, and Supro used them in a couple of designs as well. But Ampeg used them a lot. And basically, the idea of the Jetta, I'll give you a little back look into the design. There was a gentleman that wanted to tour my shop. And I says, yeah, okay, sure, come in. And I says, it's not going to take very long. My shop's not that big, but yeah, sure, come on in. So he came in, and he came in with his buddy, and they looked at things and played amps and talked music and amps for a little while. And of course, he did have a kind of ulterior motive, and that was that he had this old Ampeg reverber rocket that was broken. And the claim to fame to that amp was the model amp that Keith Richards used on Exile on Main Street. So if you're familiar with the Stones at all, Exile on Main Street was kind of a unique tone and sound. It was kind of that reggae-ish kind of release for the Rolling Stones. So there were some unique tones on that album. And this was the amp that Keith used to record that. So it kind of perked my interest. I said, I generally don't do repairs on other people's amps. I just do Z amp repairs if I have to. I don't really do other products. But I said, okay, bring it in. And come to find out, Ampegs are very stout products. There wasn't really a lot of problems with it. One of them was a broken output tube. It was cracked. The reverb tub was broken, as they do, when the springs get disconnected from the transducers. Then there were a couple little caps and some minor repairs that needed to be done. So I was able to get it going. Found some current production 7591s from Tunxall, Electro Harmonix' brand of Tunxall reissues. And man, I fired it up and the thing sounded great. I'm like, oh my God, this amp does sound pretty good. So I had been looking for a design to build of a lower cost combo 112 amp. And this kind of like said, ooh, it's a little bit of an epiphany for me. Never really being an Ampeg kind of guy, but so I kind of looked into the design and saw that the precursor to that amp was the Ampeg Jet. And the Ampeg Jet was a lot simpler of a design. It was just volume and tone. It didn't have reverb or trem or any of that. So it was a very simple design. And because of its simplicity, it allowed me to manufacture the amp and wired built here in my facility and release it for like $13.99. And that's a 112 handmade combo with high quality components. I mean, there's Jupiter coupling caps and, like I said, Triad output tranny, 7591 tubes, Celestion H30. So it's all premium parts, and it put together in a really cool sounding amp. So I packaged it for $13.99, and that's kind of how the Jetta, kind of a spin on the Ampeg Jet, kind of came about. And it's doing extremely well for me. It's actually done better than any amp I've released in my 32 years. We built well over 100 of them in a matter of 2 months. So it's caught on pretty well. And, I think the price point has a lot to do with it. People are being a little bit more conservative with their purchases. As in the early 2000s, things were really escalating. Prices were really going up, and every time you come out with something new, it's more and more money. But that kind of stopped, and people are a little bit more conservative with what they purchase. And if you give them an extremely high quality product at a price that I kind of consider being pretty equal to like an imported amp's price, meaning something that's made offshore, with a PC board and whatnot, very similar to that price, it's very lucrative and people look at it. So it's done very well for us. So it's $13.99 as a 112 combo, and the head is $12.99, and that's going to be available. We're building them now, so dealers should have them pretty soon. So that's kind of what's new. The Z-Rec Junior, which I'm hoping will do really well, and it appears that it will. There's a lot of people excited about it, and then also the Jetta. So that's 2 new products that have kind of been keeping me busy.
Well, that is one hell of a week.
What are you talking about? This is yesterday.
Nice.
Well, that is quite a week.
Wow, you silenced Todd. That's
when you can
amazing.
silence Todd, that's excellent.
Oh my goodness.
How about Jared?
Well, yeah, we're gonna hit Jared, and then we're gonna Dr. Z. We're gonna get
Get right back
really
into it.
back deep into your stuff here in just a bit. Go ahead, Jared.
I went to the guitar show.
You went to a guitar show.
I had a table to guitar show. It did pretty well, but we have. I actually picked up a 1973 Marshall JMP 100 watt Mark II.
You really needed another Marshall. You
100
didn't
watt.
have enough.
Yeah.
Another Marshall.
This one's different than everything else, I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think you need a Marshall
we
Major
weren't even
next.
there for 20 minutes.
I know. I
That
had
does
to have
surprise
it.
me. He just
had to
wandered
have it.
off for 5 minutes,
Yes.
came back with a Marshall.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
bought.
essentially.
Well, it's the lady that was there in the winter, and I had bought. She had 2 matching 1977 Marshall JMP. The new, somewhat newer ones, and they're a little different. But the 73 I got, I took it home and I messed around with it, and it was modded, and it's got a master on it now. But it sounds really, really good, and it's useful to me because you blow your eardrums out if it doesn't have a master.
Yeah. No, master on those are great. I mean, it's common.
So that's pretty much it. Well, no, I got one more thing. I got an old Unisphere 1 with the original case and the original cord that it came with. The microphone, a Shure microphone, Unisphere 1. I got it for I don't know $50. The only reason I got
It's an unremarkable looking microphone. It just looks like a regular microphone.
it does, but it's the same one my dad had and he
Yeah.
gigged out with for a long time.
yeah.
He had it from when he had in his band right after high school up until he stopped gigging with it in the 90s. So
Nice. So it's a remembrance.
it is. It's more of a
and it had
sentimental
the
thing.
original nylon case, the white nylon case.
It's
That's
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a thing. Let's see, Mr. Man.
Me?
Yeah,
Man, not much been going on my week. Let me think. What's the newest thing?
Change strings on a guitar.
Yeah, did that. Still on the never-ending search for the quintessential Strat. I think last time I was on here, I was talking about this, and I'm still. But now I've got
Build it for you. Come on.
I've got 3 Strats that I'm choosing between. So, well, no, it's trying to find something with the right neck feel, and I'm building up basically an arsenal of quote test guitars. And yeah,
You want to try out a Strat Plus?
nope.
I
Next-
love the necks on there.
Neck's too small. Nope.
Really?
Yep. No, and that's exactly my problem. Is I want like 9.5 or 10-inch radius, taller frets.
yeah.
I thought you were
more
going
of
to say
a-
because it was a Strat.
Well, and as I'm finding out, I'm not a big fan of Strats, so that's difficult. But
Solidarity.
Aren't
But
50
still.
necks kind of like that? 50 necks are kind of like
well,
50s.
and there's the thing, like you'll look at a Mexican 50 reissue versus a Japanese, and
They're all different.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and none of them are like the actual 50s, and then stuff in the 50s, 60s. You pick up one next to each other, and
If anyone out there
Yeah.
has the opportunity to hold a Strat from the early 60s or mid 50s, do it. It's so different
Yeah.
than today's. I don't know why, but it just is.
yeah. So I guess that's what's been going on my week. I got 3 guitars, 3 different Strats. I'm deciding between, and and I can't keep them all. I'm not rich yet, so
No. Outstanding.
How about you, Todd?
I'm always messing with the pedal board, trying to the search for tone. Man.
Always.
And I've got this pedal that I built, the first pedal that I built. And I remember a show. It was really early in one of our shows. I was talking about this build, and I got it from Guitar PCB, I think, and it's like a MK2 or MK Mark II overdrive with a boost in it, but it's modded. Like I couldn't even build the kit without changing it.
you changed it as you were
Changed
building
the
it.
kit. Yeah.
Okay,
So, but it sounded amazing when I got it. But then I was like, yeah, I want more stuff. So then I shelved that, and I was playing the song. And I was like, I wonder if the alpha would be right here. And I put it in front of the Champion Lecky pedal boost. Wow. I was like, that's the thing that I've been looking for. And it's been on my shelf the whole
Awesome.
time.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about how it sounds, but I know that there's something a little bit screwy with it. I mean, it was my first build, but it did work. And I would love to be able to just rebuild another one of those clean. So I got to hunt it down and figure out what I
Do
did.
it. Yeah.
Less solder blobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's blobs.
Hey, that was a clean pedal, man. Don't you criticize my blobs.
What would you do if you actually came up with the absolute best pedal combination and there's nothing that could make it better? Would your head explode or what?
No,
Because all the fun's gone after that.
Yeah, I don't.
no,
you can't.
he would get bored of it after a gig, and
That's not totally true.
yeah.
Anyways,
A little bit.
Dr. Z.
Yes.
you still
Wake up.
there.
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
All right, Dr. Z, 4 on the floor. What is number 1?
Okay, number 1 is the Dr. Z Drive. a little bit of a plug there for me, but
We're letting you get away with it
it's a
because you're
great.
Dr. Z.
Is that a different Dr. Z?
yeah. No, it's a great pedal. It's a 2-channel pedal that was kind of designed. Jamie Stillman from Earthquaker and myself kind of put it together. And it's a nice drive pedal. It has an active EQ, so there's treble, middle, bass, and there's gain and level for the 2 channels. And one of the channels has germanium diodes. So, it kind of has that Santor Klon kind of action happening where it's kind of a nice overdrive pedal, not so much of a distortion pedal. And on the other side is an op amp, and so it does have quite a bit of drive or distortion. So it's a dual channel pedal, and I kind of like it. Works great with my amps, and it's one that maybe some of you guys should check out.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
that's number 1.
Number 1.
Fantastic.
Okay. Number 2 is the Strymon Flint, or the Flyman String.
Yeah.
I love that pedal. I mean, it just, being an amp designer, man, trying to build reverb circuits into amps. Boy, I used to have a full head of hair before I designed my first reverb amp. The reverb tubs are just such poor quality nowadays. And to try to find good 12AT7s and yadity and back and forth. And it's a difficult thing to try to make a good sounding built-in reverb Not impossible, of course, but difficult. And to keep the consistency is a little difficult. So, I've been building amps now with many more effects loops. Okay, effects loop seems to be a kind of a option that many amp buyers like and ask for. So I kind of went to my friend George Metropolis and started using his little Metro zero loss effects loop board. And there's many amp builders that use that George's design. And it's just a plug-in kind of unit, and it runs on high voltage. It's a high voltage FET design. So it sounds very good. I mean, it really does. It's an excellent, excellent design. And I just love plugging the Strymon Flint into it when I test my amps. I kind of use the Flint as kind of my basis to see how well the effects loop is working in that specific model. And it's just great. And I love the trem, the 3 selections of different reverb types is very, very nice, very natural. And it's just an excellent, excellent design. Probably the best reverb pedal that I have found. And having a nice trem along with it is certainly a plus. So that's number 2.
And that was the pedal that you were recommending when we were testing out the Jetta up at your place, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And the Jetta has the Metro effects loop. So, I do test them all with the Strymon. And,
nice.
And boy, it's just perfect. Really, just perfect.
Awesome. Number 3.
Okay, number 3. I'm going to go back to my old days. I'm going to kind of show you my age here. And
I think we guessed it, by the way.
Is that the Flintstones pedal?
You're 30.
Yeah, you're using your feet constantly. It's a germanium fuzz face pedal.
Oh, yeah.
And,
cool.
and it's one that I've just always loved because if you guys are familiar with the old fuzz faces, if you get a good one, and it seemed like in the days that I collected them, the silver ones always sounded the best for some reason or another. I don't know why. Maybe it was just in my head. But, they did come in multiple colors. But the silver ones were always cool. And you were able to dial that pedal in to just give you kind of a moderate kind of boost or overdrive, slight overdrive that was very natural sounding. Or, you can drive it and get that clipped fuzz tone that, from Satisfaction or whatever. You could really get a heavy, saturated Hendrix-like fuzz sound out of it. But I kind of liked its versatility. And I kind of liked it as kind of a precursor to the simpler overdrive pedals that had come later on. So, the germanium fuzz face has always had a special place in my heart. Okay. So that's number 3.
Cool.
Number 4, this is a unique pedal that I don't think gets enough play, that not a lot of people are familiar with, but God, it's a great pedal. It's an Earthquaker pedal. It's the Tone Job. Is what he calls it. Tone Job, yes. And basically, Jamie designed this pedal to kind of go at the end of your pedal board. And it was kind of a catch-all active EQ little pedal that allowed you to, kind of finally adjust your overall tonation before it goes into your amp. And God, it was just such a great sounding, even by itself, to me. It was just such a great shaping device to give just a little bit of overdrive and then total control of treble, middle, and bass. And just in such a correct amount. So, you could either use it at the end of your pedal board to kind of do a final adjustment to your sound, or, just as a standalone, kind of a nice little lead boost or just, rhythm increase as you're playing. And I really like it. And it's one that's not that known or that used, but believe me, guys, you pick up a Tone Job, man, I think you'll be impressed.
All right.
So those are my 4. How's that?
Hey.
I think that's the first
That's
time.
pretty solid.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's the first time the Tone Job's been on here, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the
That's
first
the
time.
first one, yeah.
Actually, that's the first time for all of those pedals.
Really?
No. I mean, that's
not the Flyman
not
Strand.
the Flyman Strand. That's been on like 6 times.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's a
the
cool,
Z Drive,
The Z Drive's
Z
got
Drive.
been
That's
on
number one.
before.
So now, where can people? Just really quickly, tell people where they can find you right now.
Like where,
as
on
far
the internet.
as
where he's sitting right now, like his address. I mean, what are you doing here?
Watch out for drone
Online.
strikes.
Online.
Well, I do have quite a few dealers. I mean, you can go on my website and kind of look at my dealer list. I can't really go through it all. We don't have time for me to list them all.
But how about
But-
what's the Instagram? What's your Instagram?
Instagram is Dr. Z Amps. I guess if you go on my website, there's a little click for the little Instagram logo.
Dr. Z Amps.
Yeah, Dr. Z Amps.
Dr. Z Amps. That was a pretty good guess.
Yes.
Who is this Dr. Z? We have an
Who is
imposter.
this guy? Who is this guy?
Yeah. So yeah, well, that first pedal, the Z Drive, sounds pretty cool. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yes.
Go online
Thank
and
you.
check that out.
Do it.
It actually sounds quite a bit like the pedal that I was referencing in my 4 on the Floor. To be honest,
Oh, okay.
Except
Yeah.
built better.
except clearly built better. Now, so let's get into the world of Dr. Z. I think so Rob, I know you've got a much longer history. Tony, you have a longer history. You've got a Z Maz at your Maserati at your shop.
Yep.
From somebody who isn't as deeply aware of the history of Dr. Z and everything, just from a slightly more outsider standpoint, I came into this knowing this is extremely high quality gear and very accessible gear. It's not the high quality gear that you have to have a manual to understand, or that you will never be able to use on stage, or that you have to have a roadie for, or something like that. And actually, Rob,
It helps though.
the simplicity is the simplicity and the quality are pretty much unmatched. I think
Absolutely.
that's the thing. Now, we asked Rob
you.
when we had our Amps 101 show, which I would highly suggest, if you haven't heard that episode, everybody go check that one out. We asked you, all right, for the money, what's the amp? And you I didn't even finish a sentence, and you
Yeah.
said Dr. Z. And I was like, wow, that's quite an endorsement for a guy who
thank you.
repairs amps for a living.
It's because I never have
Thanks.
to repair them.
Yeah.
I mean, no joke. I replace a tube here and there, and back out the door it goes. Back on tour.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's intriguing for me as someone who's never, at that point had never played one. Obviously, I've seen them around. Tony, we got to play yours one time, and
I don't even let you look at mine.
no, that's true. You don't. Why? So it was very interesting for me to get into. Well, let's find out about this. I've actually wanted you on the show for a long time, and wanted to make sure that we had the right venue to have that and the right people in the room.
You might have been probably the number one requested guest too.
Yeah.
People that have-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without question.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
You're an important guy.
Ego's swelling.
Yeah.
God, these headphones aren't fitting anymore.
So I'm going to hand this over to Rob and Tony, because you guys have a deeper
okay.
understanding. I'd like you guys to just kind of run with it a little bit. I want you to get into where we are with you now, how you got here, and all that stuff. Just as sort of an overview. If we don't cover it right this second, we'll get there. But go ahead.
Well, and I tell you, my first thing is, and I figured the first time I had a Dr. Z come in, 15, 16 years ago, immediately I assumed whatever you did before amps had to be something that was very high tolerance, something in the medical field or
Yes.
private contractor for military or something. So why don't you talk about that, what you did before Dr. Z?
Well, I was in medical electronics. I worked for General Electric for about 15 years. I do have a degree in engineering, electrical engineering. And I worked for GE and, some pretty high end CAT scanners, MRIs, nuclear cameras. That was kind of where I started in the industry, electronics industry, if you will. Going back a little further than that, my dad was a TV repairman. So, the basement of my house looked very much like my shop does now. Tubes everywhere and all kinds of electronic test equipment and parts always strewed around. So, I grew up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, had a father that was very giving and sharing of his knowledge to me and kind of helped me along as I started. So I was always kind of interested in electronics, always interested in music. I'm a kind of child of the 60s and, always there with, the British invasion and all the early stuff that happened at that time. And I guess living the dream, being able to combine my love for electronics and my love for music, put them together in a kind of a career that's spanned about 32 years now. It is just very great. I just can't tell you how lucky and blessed I feel that I am. And I don't take it for granted, and I truly appreciate it. And that's, I guess, kind of the basis of it without getting too schlocky about it. But that's kind of where it came from. And yes, I did have a high-tech electronics background, and that's what brought me into building guitar amps. And, one thing that's a spin-off of that is that, Dr. Z Amps is the only boutique amp manufacturer that is UL and ETL approved. Okay, so I've had my amps, laboratory tested to get the certifications that were needed for exporting into Canada. It's kind of what forced me to do it.
Really, that's required for Canada?
Well, CSA, the Canadian Safety Board, I kind of got into a store, or Long and McQuaid is the name of the stores, and they have about 50 or 60 stores in Canada. Mm-hmm. So they're a high profile kind of retailer in Canada, and because of that, they get inspected and they get checked, and I don't want to get political here, but, they talk about the NAFTA, the North American Trade Agreement. Well, that was all well and good. But what Canada did was, Canada would rather you buy a Trainer guitar amp that was made in Canada than a Dr. Z amp that was made in the United States. So even though there was a free trade agreement, they said that there was safety considerations, that any imported product had to pass the CSA, the Canadian safety standards. Mm-hmm. So I was dealing with Long and McQuaid, and one day they said to me, "Hey, Z, if we're going to continue to carry your stuff, you're going to have to get CSA approval." So I said, okay. So I looked into it, and I actually had my stuff approved. It's all on my website. You can see there's a 55-page kind of result of the testing that my products go through, the vibration testing, the drop testing, all of the things that they do to make it UL approved. So I'm kind of proud of that. I do get inspected 4 times a year. Kind of an inspector just comes in unannounced and just kind of looks around and makes sure that everything is still being built the same way that it was when it was initially certified. Wow. So I kind of, it's big business. If you look at Fender and Orange and Vox and Marshall, yeah, I mean, they have to do that as well. If they're going to export into various countries, they have to have the correct certification. And they have departments certification departments that take care of that. Well, I don't have a certification department. I am the certification department. So I have to deal with that. But, like I say, I am, an engineer. So it does come kind of easy to me. And, seeing the stuff, that you saw, Rob, and how well it's built. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just an indication of knowing how to do it and how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't always make it be the best sounding piece of equipment.
But just from a build quality, that's
exactly. I try to make as original of a product as I can. Of course, I look at sounds that I like and amp tones that I like that make me go down that path and try to make that.
Yeah.
But I don't look at a schematic and just copy it, part for part. I'm inspired tonally by different products, but I want to see how I can do it and how I can build a product that then I can turn over to my employees to manufacture easily, efficiently, and, have a business that, makes a little profit and keeps the lights on.
That might be a good segue into your first product too, how you started introducing Dr. Z guitar amps to the world.
Yes. Okay. Well, you talk about being blessed. I guess I really had an incredible break, and I started Dr. Z amps in 1988, and in 1990, the early 90s. I kind of hooked up with Joe Walsh, and Joe Walsh was going out with the Eagles on the Hell Freezes Over tour. And the next thing I know, Joe's using an SRZ 65 Dr. Z amp on the Eagles Hell Freezes Over tour, which at the time was probably the biggest tour that was going on. And there's my amps right on stage. So I had kind of an instant credibility, if you will, through the help of my buddy Joe. And no one had heard of me, prior to that. But after a couple of years of touring, my amps were seen and heard, and all of a sudden, if they were good enough for Joe Walsh, I think I should check this out. So that's what a lot of people did, and it helped me grow my company. And the next kind of way that I went from the SRZ 65, which was an EL34 based amp. It was ultralinear design, which was rather unique, and it was a pretty high powered kind of amp. Was Vox stuff, and that was the Maz. I kind of went into the 4EL84 designs. I've always loved that. Always loved the early British Invasion stuff, and the Beatles and the Kinks and the Who, and all of that kind of was what I cut my teeth on when I was young. So I built the Maz line and basically kind of said to myself, I want to put together the holy grail. Okay, the Vox, the Fender, and the Marshall tones kind of collaborated in one design and got a little bit of each one in a Maz. I mean, you can kind of get a Fendery reverb sound out of a Maz, and you can certainly get the chimey, voxy kind of sound because of the 84s. And I gave it a little growl, I gave it a little bite, so that you can kind of get a little Marshall-y tones out of it as well. I mean, it's not going to knock those off completely, but it's my combination of those three sounds that then made my next amp, which was the Maz line. And the Maz 38 was certainly very popular for me and did very, very well. It seemed like blues players. I had, from John Mayall's band to there's so many Texas blues players that played the Bass 38, just kind of loved it for what it was. So it was a great amp. And again, I kind of reached that same point that I reached with the Z-Rec Junior. And that was, man, it's kind of loud, for the little clubs that we play. Is there some way that we can cut the power down, make it less? And then that was where the Maz Junior was born. And today, it's still my most popular model.
The Maz Junior?
The Maz 18 Junior. I mean, I have over 5,000. I've built over 5,000 of those units of just that model that are in production in the field somewhere. We evolved it to the Mark II. The past couple of years, we kind of did a Mark II upgrade on the older Mazes, kind of bringing them up to snuff, if you will. And there's quite a few of them out there. And it seems to be, I don't know. I don't want to take too much credit for it, but basically it's kind of my idea of the 2000s deluxe reverb. It fills that niche. It's that kind of desert island little amp that works very well in small clubs and jams, in the studio, at home. So it kind of caught on with a lot of people. And because of its variation in sound, blues players, jazz players, classic rock players, worship players, all seem to levitate around the Maz. So it's done pretty well. So that was kind of my next big project. And then I kind of evolved from there. The Route 66. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that product, but it was basically an EF86 front end with the KT66 output tubes, and again in an ultra linear configuration.
What does that mean?
The Route 60
ultra linear configuration.
Okay, what ultra linear means is that if you understand the secondary portion of an output transformer, there are plate connections. Okay, there's a plus and a minus plate for the two sides of the output tranny. Well, in an ultra linear transformer, there's two more wires that kind of feed the screen supply of the pentode tubes that you're connecting to. And I hope I'm not going over too many people's heads with these terminations.
Fairly certain you are, but that's okay. That's what we're here to do. We're here to learn. So.
Todd's starting to drool out the side of his mouth. So.
Okay. So basically, if you just think about it, you've got a plate voltage, which is the maximum amount of high voltage on the tube. And then you go down to the screen supply, which is a little bit less. Now, because it comes off of the same transformer, it tracks linearly. So when the voltage sags a little bit, not only does the plate sag, but the screen sags the exact correct amount. So you're always linear. The screen is what kind of opens up inside the tube to allow the electrons to flow. The plate is where it's collected and amplified, and that goes out to the speaker.
Wow. We all learned something right there. That's pretty cool.
So basically, by having an ultra linear design, you're always kind of tracking and linearly tracking through the tube, no matter if you're heavily compressing and distorting or whether you're playing a clean passage. So that I've always been kind of attracted to ultra linear designs. And, it's like when you go to college, you pick up certain designs from, your professors that talk about them in school. And that's basically what happened to me. And I got hooked. I had a professor that really loved ultra linear trannies, and we had many discussions about them, and then I utilized them in my designs. So they there you are. That was the Route 66, and then from the Route 66, I kind of evolved that platform, if you will, into many amps. I kind of did a Z28. Which was basically that same amp as the Route 66, but with six V6s. I did a KT45 which was basically that same design with EL34s. I did a Delta 88, which is basically that same design with KT88 output tubes.
Can I ask you really quick something?
Yes.
Because we're kicking around a lot of tube terms. Could you, so that we have a better understanding of tonally where some of those differences are, could you give us a quick understanding of tonally what those things might represent?
Okay, I certainly will. Let's start with the KT66. A wonderful, wonderful tube. Very rich and warm, almost milkshake-like in its output. Very nice kind of lower mids and low end. Very smooth.
Like me.
Yeah, I mean, just a great, great sound. I mean, think of the early JTM 45s. They initially used KT66 tubes. And, that's the sound that it represents.
And those ones are huge. Those ones are like, they're really big.
Very big glass bottle.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're kind of offshoots of 6L6s, okay? Kind of the American version is the 6L6. The European or English version, the Mullard version, was the KT66.
Okay.
Now, the 6L6 is a very strong kind of tube, great output. But what I find to be a little difficult with the 6L6 is they're a bit toothy, meaning they always kind of have a little bite to them. If you think about twin reverbs, it's just kind of hard to dial that out. They're big, they're strong, they're powerful tubes, but they always have that kind of toothiness or bite to my ear. But they're a great American tube used in many, many designs, and they work very, very well. The little brother of the 6L6 is the 6V6, okay? Kind of a smaller envelope, about half the output power of a 6L6, but a lot sweeter top end. I mean, very, very sugary and sweet on the top end of a 6V6. And that's kind of what, people like when you want to distort one heavily in, let's say, a Tweed Deluxe or even a Tweed or Deluxe Reverb. It just has a very pleasant top end. The low end could get a little flubby. The low end can kind of get a little bit loose because it's not that powerful of a tube. So you have to make sure that your design is correct. You have the correct choke, you have the correct power supply, and the correct bias setting for a 6V6 to sound good. But it's kind of a smaller 6L6. EL34s, well, that's kind of our Marshall sound. If you want to think of a picture in your mind of what a 6L or an EL34 would sound like, think about 50-watt Marshall, man, 100-watt Marshall. Strong mid-range, big bottom end, big sounding amp, great sustain, and a full-bodied kind of sound that a 34 has. It's just a beautiful, beautiful tone. I love EL34s. Then there's EL84s, okay, which, if you kind of think about it, kind of similar to what a 6L6 and a 6V6. Well, an EL34 kind of similar to what an EL84 would be. An 84 is a kind of a smaller bottle tube, very similar tonally to what an EL34 can do. But, it's just a bit, it has that clang, it has that Vox AC30 sound, man. There's a brilliance to it and just that clangy tone that a 34 has. Not all that powerful as far as low end is concerned, but a very gainy tube. It's a tube that you can really design with and really get a great, distortion. I mean, if you listen to some of the examples of amps, and I'll plug some of my brothers, the little Friedman, his little JJ amp with EL84 sounds amazing. The same with the Mercury V by Carr. You get such great sounds out of 84s. You can get so much drive, and it's at a usable volume level. You're not killing yourself and everybody else in the room. KT88s, man, they're just wonderful tubes because they kind of replace the American 6550. If you're familiar with the big bottled 6550 tube, that was used in a lot of bass amps. You'll see that in a lot of Ampeg SVTs and a lot of bass amp designs because of its ability to put on a lot of wattage at a very clean sound with a lot of low end and a lot of girth. And that's the 6550. Always sounded a little strident to me. Not the best tube to use as a guitar amp tube, to be honest with you. Sun used them. You can listen to some of the Sun 200s and whatever, and you can kind of see what I mean about the sound of the 6550. So the KT88 is kind of the British version of that. And oh my God, it's kind of the same amount of output, kind of the same big bottled tonation, but a little bit of hair on the notes always. There's just that kind of cool little distortion that the KT88s have, as well as giving you almost 100 watts out of a pair. So they were great. And, I used them in, I made a pedal steel amp called the Surgical Steel. And I used KT88s in that, as well as the Delta 88 that I built. So I think that's pretty much it. I mean, 34s, 6L6s, 6V6s, EL34s, EL84s, 6550s, and, KT88s. The only thing that's left that is rather unique is the 7591. And that's the tube that I use in the Jetta. And the uniqueness to the 7591 is that was kind of the last output tube that's been designed. If you go back in the history and the archives of output tubes, this was kind of the last one. So, man, there was a lot of great ideas that went into to designing this tube. And it's an amazing little tube, man. I mean, it puts out incredible amounts of power. It has an incredible bandwidth. I mean, its fidelity is almost unmatched. And it has a kind of a uniqueness. There's a kind of a clarity and warmth to its sound that's just very unique. And, it was used a lot in stereos, basically. That was its main application. Fisher and Scott and all of these little, stereo companies use the 7591 in their designs. And that, I guess that kind of rounds it out. I can't think of anything else that I might have missed.
You're like the tube sommelier.
Yeah, well, honestly, guys, it's 24/7 for me.
Yeah.
In 32 years of this, I live it, I sleep it. I don't stop, but it's just because of the love for it.
Absolutely.
And
well, that's why we wanted to talk to you.
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I think
Thanks for the platform.
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
it.
think some of our listeners would be interested to know that you are not a guitar player, and like at least one other amp builder, you are a drummer.
Two. Oh, well, yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
we talked about the Marshall and Fender.
Yes,
We're guitar players.
Jim
Yeah.
Marshall was a drummer.
Yeah.
Leo Fender,
Yes.
I don't think played anything.
No.
But
No.
look at him. He did okay for
Right.
himself.
Yeah, I think so.
So how,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so how as not a guitar player, how do you evaluate? I mean, do you just use your own instincts, your own ear, your own, or do you?
Well, okay. Well, here's an answer. I'm always asked this question, of course, and my first answer is that when I was younger and in my teenage years and whatever, I was always the guy that friends would come and get when they were buying a stereo. They go, "Come on, Z, I want you to listen to this. What do you think? What do you think of this speaker? What do you think of this amp?" I guess I always kind of had a pretty good ear, for lack of a better word. I just always could tell good sounds and always had a good ear. So that was one thing that was working for me. And the second thing I think that's a little bit of my advantage is that not being a guitar player, I'm not designing amplifiers for my taste. I find a lot of my brothers in the industry, have this holy grail kind of idea of what a guitar amp should sound like and what in their head they would love. And for a small majority of people, that might be great. They love that. Oh yeah. Oh, I dig that sound. But I kind of paint with a broader paintbrush. I don't go at it with what I think is the best or how I want something to be. I want to make things that other people will enjoy and use as their muse and make their music from the products that I produce. So I kind of have a little bit of an opening. I kind of know electronics pretty well. I know how to design. I've got a pretty good ear, so I know when something sounds good or sounds bad. And I just try to make amps that will be popular with people, and I kind of did that, I guess. All these years, I'm still in business.
So in some ways, you don't experience the limitations that some of us guitar players have, or at least the preconceived notions of what something is supposed to sound like.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in nice words, yes. I mean that's true, and I think that some people get tricked into that. They get kind of down a path of this is what it should sound like, and try to force that down someone else's throat. And gosh, you guys know, you're all guitar players. I mean, you get a room with 10 guitar players in it, ask them a question, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Sure.
I mean,
At least 10.
everybody has their own sound. Everybody knows, what they want or what they feel it should be. The perceptions are all different. No two people hear the same. I mean, so there's so many variables that I find that if I make myself a little bit more neutral and just try to use the experience that I have as a designer to design a good quality product. And I've always believed this, the shortest path gives the richest tone. And what does that mean? That means the simpler the design. Many of my designs have 2 knobs or 3 knobs. And that seems to work very well because the signal comes in and from your fingers and it goes out the speaker and it sounds great. It's not too processed or overdone or this or that. So it's simple, it's rich, and people seem to be able to work with that. And
awesome.
That's my philosophy, if you will.
Great. Okay, Dr. Z, do you have any final thoughts for us and our listeners?
I think that it's just an unbelievable renaissance for guitar players. I mean, between the great pickups and guitars and pedals and amps that are available today, it's amazing. I mean, we never had this kind of choice. If any of you are old enough to be able to look back into the 60s or even the 70s, God, there wasn't much to choose from. Today, there's just a myriad of equipment and new stuff coming out all the time. So it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a guitar player. And I'm happy to be a part of that in my own little way and make products that make people happy and satisfy their needs. I mean, you'll see that there's quite a few Dr. Z amps on the road. I mean, I'm on stages with some of the biggest guitarists in the world. And the reason being is that I just make a nice, simple amp that works, that's going to be reliable. And they can count on it sounding the same today and tomorrow and the next day. And artists appreciate that. And maybe it doesn't have all the whistles and bells and 3 channels and all of the stuff that some designers come up with. In its simplicity, I think, is where its beauty is. And that's how I kind of built my reputation. And I will continue to do that. And I must say, as I get older, the designs just keep coming and coming. And they just get better and better, guys. Believe me.
Okay, holy moly. That was our awesome interview with Dr. Z. Thank you so much, Dr. Z.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Guys, I think that was pretty
That was pretty
Astounding.
Yeah.
excellent.
awesome. I think it's exactly what we were hoping for, and we really appreciate that.
Better than watching a Browns game.
Yeah.
Jeez, don't set the bar very low.
For the past 20 years.
Now, well, the Cavs won last night. That's cool.
Okay, no. Anyway,
All right.
okay. Sports.
Instead of talking about sports, ladies and
Yes, what
gentlemen,
do we have, Jared?
Instead, let's do Would You Rather?
Oh, he can do that without the Tony's giving him a back massage here.
All right, man. This week's Would You Rather is from a customer of mine. His name's Anthony Lanthrop. And he put together a really cool red guitar. It's got some really cool flame in it and all that kind of thing. He sent us a Would You Rather, and it goes like this. Would you rather have mad building skills and be able to build exactly the guitars, amps, pedals, cables you want, or pickups in my case, you want to your own specification, or would you rather have just a big budget to buy exactly the gear you want? So would you rather have just a buttload of money so you could just buy whatever you want, or would you rather just build everything yourself, have the skills to build everything yourself?
Tony?
Well, if I didn't already have the mad building skills to do all of this, no, I'm just, surely I just. No, I think there is a great deal of satisfaction that comes from being able to build things yourself.
Hell yeah.
And now, maybe they're not as, factory perfect or whatever, but if you can custom tailor things to your own sound and taste,
Homegrown.
and ultimately it costs you a little less money to do it that way. So the other part of this question is what's the budget? What's the budget in addition to the mad skills?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be like low budget. Like,
Low budget.
Like,
bending your own metal and chopping down trees
well,
and
and
stuff.
you got to go collect cans to then bend your own metal,
But I think so. I think the good point, anybody can go out and buy stuff from the store, and it may or may not be exactly what you want. But if you know what you want and you had the skills to do that, to build a guitar and to build amplifiers and pedals and everything else under the sun, if you're good at soldering, you can do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I think the satisfaction of doing it yourself would be my choice.
All right.
it's Tony.
Tony? Jared?
Yeah, because I make my own pickups and I put together my own guitars. Sometimes I do buy a lot of Gibsons, so I don't put those together. But I as a guy that just already does stuff myself, usually I'm definitely going to go with build this stuff myself.
Okay. Dr. Z, how about yourself?
Well, I have to agree with Jared and Tony. And the reason I say it is that even after 32 years of sitting at a bench and building amps, there's nothing like the satisfaction of that first time plugging in and seeing it work and listening to it being played. There's just so much satisfaction in it. It's almost like giving birth. I don't know if any of you guys are parents or what, or
but none of us have
grandparents or
given
whatever.
None of us in the room have given birth.
Yeah. Okay.
No, when you
Jared
see somebody
might after the show, though.
when you you didn't say to what no, but you're exactly right. And seeing somebody play it on a stage and even in front of 5,000, 10,000 people is really awesome.
Right. And there's nothing that can match that. No. And I still get that same warm, fuzzy feeling after all of these years and after all of the tens of thousands of amps that I built. I still get that feeling every time I tube one up and power it up. It's an amazing feeling, and it's something that can't be bought. You can't put a price on that. And yes, I agree with Jared and Tony. There's nothing like doing it yourself. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Rob?
Okay, I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to say buy gear, and here's why. I'm approaching this from a player standpoint. Mm-hmm. And being a player for professional for about 20 years I was before I kind of put aside, and obviously doing the repair thing for however many years now, I find myself, if having the knowledge and being able to get in there and tweak things, I don't just play. I play, and then I think, boy, I kind of wish this had a little more of this, a little less this. And then I get in, tinker, and make it what I want to, which is great. But from a player standpoint, if I didn't have that knowledge, but I could amass, a dozen Z amps and a dozen Friedmans and old Marshalls and old Fenders and just be able to plug in and get the tone I have in my head and not be thinking about all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going that route. I'd rather, if I could just have all that stuff. Imagine walking in a room and just being able to grab, whatever, this old Dumble and this old Fend, just bam.
Dumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to join you on that one because, and from a slightly different angle, because I love the being able to build and stuff like that.
But you're proud of that pedal, though, man.
I am proud of that pedal, but I want, as a player, I want to be able to say, I want to get the right exact thing by the person who does that thing the best.
Yeah, but you've got the skill set to do that now.
Well, you may have the skill set to be able to make all those things, but I doubt that you're going to be able to be the best at an amp, the best at a guitar, the best at a pedal, and the best at it, right?
According to the Would You Rather, you have
are.
the skill set, and
You have
you
the
are.
skill set. That's all it says. I'm using the words that we're given.
Right.
So all I'm saying is like, and also
Good
I don't
point.
have,
Good point.
I don't have, Jared, the head that you bought. I think the last two items you bought are worth more than like my entire music collection.
Yeah.
I don't have that because I do have kids.
I didn't pay that much for
So-
it.
He has more Marshall amps than I do in all my gear combined.
Yeah. So I've never experienced
You fixed a few of
the
them.
idea of being able to go in and
Thank
just
you.
go like, yeah, I want this and I want this and I want this and I want this. So I think that would be pretty dang fun.
Yeah.
And actually, on that note, I've been asked several times, like, what's up with you and the Supro? Because I mentioned the Supro. I'm like, that's the amp that I have. I got that, like that. That's a purchase and a trade and a trade and a trade kind of thing. It's like, that's what I got. So that's what I make it work,
Right.
But
Yeah.
I'm not a Supro champion or anything like that. So
You need a Dr. Z.
I
There
would
you
love
go.
to have a Dr. Z. So.
Let's do it.
And I heard
on
he's
my
giving them
bucket
away
list.
this
Or
week.
two.
Yeah, right.
Come and get him.
Come on up to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
got a herd of them. I'm giving them away.
Buy him a meal at the butcher and the brewer, and there you go.
so okay, that was a great question, Anthony Lathrop, executive producer,
Yes,
supporter
great guy.
of the show. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Z, again, people can find you at
DrZamps.com.
and
Yes.
and pretty much anywhere on the web.
I think so. Yeah, I got presence in a lot of social media applications. That's for sure.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we are going to share a couple. We got to say thank you to a couple people who support this. This is the craft that I get to do. I don't make guitars, but we make this. So
We make podcasts.
yeah. Here we go. Hit
And
us,
Todd
Tommy.
has the skill set to do that. So at this point of the show, right now, there's a special group of people that we like to thank called our executive producers.
That's right. Within that are some grand poobahs.
Yeah, we
Or
do have,
whatever they're
we
gonna
do
be
have
called.
at least
I like
one
the Grand
grand
Poobah.
poobah
I do like the Grand Poobah.
with a fez.
That's right.
And I mean, someone's probably listening out there saying, what's an executive producer and how do I get to become one? They make this podcast possible.
That's right.
There's other levels. You can go over to patreon.com/the guitar knobs. And there's at least a couple of different levels you can participate in sponsoring this particular podcast.
Yes.
In exchange, there is a bevy of prizes.
Yes. Well, they're not prizes. They're rewards.
Swags.
They're
Swags
rewards.
and rewards.
Word. Good word.
So things like...
And a free podcast, by the way.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll throw that in, no charge.
But there's a really cool thing.
But no, I'm not done yet. So there's T-shirts and barefoot buttons and stickers and picks and keychains and we have a ton
And
of
giveaways.
We have a ton of giveaways. This is 2020. We've got so many giveaways. I mean, we've got a closet full
By the time you heard
of
this,
stuff to give away.
We'll
Where's
be
this
giving us
closet
something else
at?
away.
Yeah.
No, we'll figure that part of it out.
Okay.
Anyhow, all of those levels have great things, but at the top of the heap are the executive producers. in addition to all that great stuff, Jared, what happens?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
And that's what I'm going to do right now is read these executive producers who make this podcast possible. Let's start with our newest. Steve Keys.
Hey!
Cody Foster. Cody Lang. Justin Jones. Tommy Manasco. David Kaminga. Doug Gann. Tim Novak. Chris Heidel. Tig Harmon. Tyler Bray. John Anglin. Anthony Lanthrop. Johnny Knowles. Stefan Lamb. Michael Senchuk. Brian Robison. Johnathan Jerusik. Ken Sayers. Corey Nigro. Brad Partridge. Michael Van Zant. Doug Christ. Darren Gregory. Chris Carney. Sean S. John Daly. Martin Cliff. Tom Barazin. And did I say our... Yeah, I did say our Supreme. Our Grand Poobah.
Today? The one today?
Yeah.
Johnathan Jerusik.
I got Jonathan.
All right. We got his name a couple times now. All right. Thank you so much for reading all of our executive producers off. Tony Baloney, much appreciated. Gentlemen, Rob, where can people find you?
madcowamplification.com.
All right.
And same on Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah, follow his Instagram because that is a treat.
It's entertaining, if nothing.
It's entertaining, and it's I learn a lot.
He does it right, people.
go.
He does
Yeah.
it right.
Tony?
Let's go over to pickguardian.com. You can see all the cool stuff that I make. If you want to see some of the projects we've been talking about, go to my Instagram feed, which is as pickguardian and the number 1.
Perfect. Jared?
Yeah, it's my turn. If you guys need some new pickups, some pickups repaired, or whatever, pickup related, give me an email, jared@brandonwallpickups.com.
All right, and you can shoot me a note, todd@theguitarknobs.com. You can also DM me on Instagram. We love to hear your comments. We love to hear your stories. If you have would you rathers you'd like to share with us, send them our way because
I love reading them off.
They're super fun.
That's right.
All right, Dr. Z, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. This was a real treat for our audience.
And us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the pleasure was all mine, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, have a great guitar week and subscribe.
Yeah. I bet him $5 that he couldn't have a clean plate.
What was it? Macaroni challenge?
I did it.
Today, he's going to... It's a small studio.
Yeah. Jared is hurting right now. He's had his head in his hands.
I had a bowl of soup, grilled cheese sandwich.
What are you doing here?
Do it.
Yeah. Can
when
you
I-
imagine what's happening in his stomach?
Come and get him.
Giant thing of coleslaw.
Yeah.
Huge, enormous amount of cheeseburger macaroni and cheese.
Oh,
Brewer, there you go.
I think he's got like an empty leg or something that all the shit falls into.
Yeah. Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.